Moscow and Crimea are on high alert today. Explosions, drones, air defenses activated. Russia's border regions are facing growing chaos. What is really happening behind the headlines, and why this moment matters more than ever? Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel for global updates. Today we are discussing a rapidly escalating situation in Russia. Moscow and Crimea are now officially placed on high alert. Security forces have been activated across several border regions. Reports describe explosions, air defenses, and emergency responses intensifying. Officials claim these measures are purely defensive and precautionary actions. However, the scale of alerts suggests rising concern within Russian leadership. Border regions near Ukraine are experiencing frequent security disruptions. Airspace closures and civilian warnings have become increasingly common. Residents report hearing sirens, drones, and defensive missile interceptions. Authorities urge calm while reinforcing infrastructure and critical facilities. This situation highlights how the conflict continues expanding geographically. Moscow itself symbolizes political power and national security confidence. Any threat perception there creates widespread public anxiety instantly. Crimea remains strategically vital, both militarily and politically. Heightened activity there signals deeper instability within contested zones. Information remains tightly controlled through official state channels. Independent verification is difficult amid fog of modern conflict. Social media, however, shows unusual emergency movements and checkpoints. Transportation disruptions are being reported in several affected areas. This opening section sets context for understanding unfolding events. Now let us examine what triggered these escalating security measures. Recent days have seen increased reports of drone-related incidents. Russian air defenses claim successful interceptions across multiple regions. Officials describe these events as attempted cross-border provocations. Ukraine has not confirmed responsibility for specific reported incidents. Military analysts note drone warfare has become a defining conflict feature. Low-cost drones can bypass traditional defenses and cause disruption. This forces states to activate expensive defensive systems repeatedly. Border regions become testing grounds for evolving military technologies. Civilian populations often experience psychological stress during such alerts. Nighttime sirens and explosions create fear and uncertainty among residents. Local governments have expanded emergency preparedness communications recently. Shelters inspections and evacuation drills are reportedly being reviewed. These steps indicate authorities anticipate prolonged elevated threat levels. Moscow's inclusion in alert measures is particularly significant symbolically. Capital cities rarely enter publicized high alert states without reason. This move suggests authorities want deterrence through visible readiness. Crimea's geography makes it vulnerable to aerial and naval threats. Control over Crimea remains central to broader regional power dynamics. Any instability there carries international diplomatic consequences immediately. Foreign governments monitor developments closely through intelligence channels. Media narratives differ sharply depending on national perspectives involved. Understanding this context helps decode official statements and responses. Information control plays a critical role during heightened security periods. Russian state media emphasizes defensive success and public reassurance messages. Footage often highlights intercepted drones and calm official briefings. Independent journalists face restrictions accessing sensitive border locations. This limits external verification of damage or operational effectiveness. Conversely, social platforms circulate unverified videos and dramatic claims. Viewers must approach such content with caution and critical thinking. Disinformation spreads easily during conflict, especially across digital networks. Both sides attempt narrative dominance alongside military operations. Public morale becomes a strategic objective during prolonged confrontations. Authorities frame alerts as evidence of vigilance rather than vulnerability. Language choices significantly shape public perception of ongoing risks. The term high alert conveys seriousness without admitting strategic weakness. Residents meanwhile adjust daily routines around security advisories. Flight delays, roadblocks, and inspections disrupt normal economic activity. Businesses in affected regions report logistical and staffing challenges. Tourism around Crimea continues facing uncertainty and declining confidence. Insurance costs and transport risks rise during sustained alert periods. These economic pressures compound already existing wartime strains. International markets briefly react to perceived escalation signals. Energy routes and trade corridors heighten global attention levels. This illustrates how localized alerts can generate worldwide implications. From a military perspective, constant alerts strain defensive resources. Air defense systems require maintenance, ammunition, and trained personnel. Repeated activations increase operational costs significantly over time. Command structures must remain alert around the clock continuously. This creates fatigue among soldiers and support staff alike. Opposing forces may exploit such fatigue through sustained low-intensity actions. Strategists call this pressure-based asymmetric engagement. It aims to exhaust rather than decisively defeat adversaries. Crimea's defenses include layered systems, radar, and naval assets. Protecting such a large area demands coordination across multiple units. Any perceived breach draws immediate political attention domestically. Moscow's leadership cannot afford public confidence erosion. High alert announcements also serve as deterrents, signaling externally. They communicate readiness to respond decisively if escalation occurs. However, signaling can also increase tensions unintentionally. Miscalculations become more likely during prolonged heightened alert environments. Communication channels between adversaries are limited and strained. This raises risks of misunderstanding tactical events strategically. History shows escalations often begin during such alert phases. Therefore, observers analyze not just actions but official rhetoric carefully. International organizations call for restraint and transparency repeatedly. Despite calls, fighting dynamics continue evolving on multiple fronts. Civilian impact remains an often overlooked consequence of security alerts. Residents near borders experience disrupted sleep and constant anxiety. Children's schools and hospitals must adapt to emergency protocols. Mental health concerns rise during sustained periods of uncertainty. Local authorities distribute guidance on sheltering and emergency preparedness. Trust in official information becomes crucial during such times. Contradictory reports can amplify fear and confusion rapidly. Some residents choose temporary relocation away from high-risk zones. This creates demographic shifts affecting local economies. Small businesses struggle with reduced foot traffic and closures. Agricultural activities face interruptions due to restricted movement. Supply chains experience delays impacting food and fuel availability. Urban centers like Moscow feel indirect effects through heightened security. Checkpoint surveillance and police presence become more visible. Such measures alter daily life perceptions, even without direct attacks. Authorities emphasize unity, resilience, and national solidarity messages. Public compliance generally remains high during initial alert phases. Over time, fatigue may reduce responsiveness to warnings. This presents challenges for emergency planners and officials. Effective communication must balance seriousness with reassurance. International humanitarian observers track civilian conditions where possible. Ultimately, civilians bear long-term costs beyond immediate headlines. International reaction to these developments remains cautious but attentive. Western governments issue travel advisories for affected regions. Diplomatic statements urge de-escalation and protection of civilians. Military analysts in NATO monitor air defense activation patterns. Satellite imagery provides indirect insight into infrastructure changes. Energy markets react nervously to any Black Sea instability. Shipping insurers adjust risk premiums for regional routes. Global investors track escalation indicators within Eastern Europe closely. Russia frames events as defensive responses to external threats. Ukraine emphasizes its right to self-defense and territorial integrity. These opposing narratives shape international public opinion sharply. Neutral states call for renewed dialogue and ceasefire discussions. However, diplomatic channels remain limited and slow-moving. Media coverage varies widely across different countries and regions. Some emphasize humanitarian risks, while others highlight military implications. Social media accelerates information spread beyond traditional news cycles. This increases pressure on governments to respond quickly publicly. Misinterpretations can escalate tensions through public expectation. Therefore, officials often choose carefully worded statements. High alert situations test crisis communication effectiveness significantly. Observers analyze timing, language, and omissions within announcements. Each signal contributes to broader strategic interpretation globally. Historically, border alerts have preceded both escalation and de-escalation. Some past alerts resulted in negotiations rather than expanded conflict. Others, unfortunately, mark beginnings of prolonged confrontations. Analysts compare current signals with previous conflict phases. Similarities include drone activity, information control, and civilian alerts. Differences include technological sophistication and information speed today. Modern conflicts unfold simultaneously on battlefields and online spaces. Narrative control has become almost as important as territory. Moscow's alert status reflects this dual battlefield reality. Authorities must manage physical security and informational perception. Crimea's symbolic importance intensifies every related development. Any incident there resonates deeply within national identity narratives. This increases sensitivity and rapid response tendencies. Rapid responses, however, can increase escalation risks inadvertently. Strategic patience becomes difficult under constant public scrutiny. Leadership decisions are influenced by domestic and international audiences. Military actions must consider diplomatic consequences instantly. This creates complex decision-making environments under time pressure. Experts warn against interpreting alerts as inevitable escalation signs. Context trends and follow-up actions matter greatly. Sustained communication or sudden silence can indicate next steps. Therefore, observers continue monitoring developments hour by hour. Technology continues reshaping how security threats manifest today. Drones, cyber operations, and surveillance blur traditional battle lines. Border regions experience these hybrid threats most intensely. Air defense alerts now include cyber monitoring components. Disruptions may target communications power or transportation networks. Such actions create chaos without direct kinetic damage. Authorities expand cybersecurity measures during high alert periods. Public institutions conduct drills for digital infrastructure resilience. Crimea's infrastructure requires protection from multiple threat vectors. Ports, bridges, and energy facilities receive heightened security. Moscow's digital networks are critical national assets. Protecting them requires constant monitoring and redundancy. Hybrid warfare complicates attribution and response decisions. Uncertainty becomes a strategic tool in itself. Civilians often cannot distinguish between technical failures and attacks. Clear communication helps reduce panic during service interruptions. Governments emphasize preparedness rather than fear messaging. However, transparency limitations persist for security reasons. This balance remains difficult to maintain consistently. Technological escalation often occurs quietly without dramatic visuals. Yet its impacts can be long-lasting and significant. Understanding this dimension is essential to interpreting current alerts. Looking ahead, uncertainty remains the defining feature of this situation. Will current alerts slowly fade or become a lasting reality? Much depends on battlefield dynamics and political decision-making. Short-term signals include frequency of reported incidents. Another indicator is tone used in official statements. Softer language may suggest confidence or de-escalation. Sharper rhetoric may point toward prolonged confrontation. Diplomatic channels remain active, though, mostly behind closed doors. International mediators quietly explore limited confidence-building measures. Economic pressure also shapes strategic calculations over time. Sustained alerts carry high financial and social costs. Governments must balance security needs with public patience. Domestic opinion influences how long restrictions can last. Civilian fatigue grows when alerts feel endless. This can reduce compliance with safety instructions. Military planners study patterns to anticipate next phases. They evaluate whether actions signal testing or escalation. Technology allows rapid shifts without clear warning signs. Unexpected incidents could rapidly change the trajectory. Preparedness therefore remains the guiding principle for authorities. Caution dominates both messaging and operational planning. Observers worldwide continue monitoring developments hour by hour. The coming weeks will clarify intentions on all sides. Until then, uncertainty will continue shaping decisions. Stability remains the hope shared by civilians everywhere. Normal life depends on reducing tension responsibly. History shows conflicts rarely follow predictable timelines. Patience, restraint, and dialogue remain essential tools. How leaders use them may define what comes next globally. As we conclude, understanding remains crucial during uncertain times. Moscow and Crimea on high alert reflect wider regional instability today. Events continue evolving beyond single headlines and viral clips online. Careful analysis helps separate confirmed facts from fast-moving speculation. This situation shows how interconnected modern global security has become. Local incidents can quickly create international political ripple effects. Staying informed requires checking multiple credible sources consistently. Avoid sharing unverified claims during sensitive and emotional moments. Remember, civilians live with the consequences behind every alert. Security decisions impact daily life far beyond government statements. Our channel focuses on calm explanation rather than sensational fear. We monitor developments closely and update when facts are confirmed. If major changes occur, you will hear them here first. Your support helps independent analysis reach wider audiences. If this breakdown added value, please like the video. Share it with friends who follow global affairs. Subscribe to the channel for regular updates. Turn on notifications so you never miss important news. Comment below with respectful thoughts or questions. Do you believe tensions will ease or increase next? We read many comments and value discussion. Thank you for watching and staying informed with us. Your engagement motivates us to keep delivering clear, accurate context during complex world events without unnecessary hype or bias for everyone watching today.